To build an efficient and scalable business, you need to document and systemize what you do and how you do it. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be walking you through the process that we've used to help 3,000 different teams systemize their entire businesses to build more productive, profitable, and healthy teams. And if at any point during this video you want to go ahead and just hit the easy button and have my team lead you through this process, go to zenpilot.com/call and book a call with one of our experts. We are here to help. And with that, let's get to the tutorial. So the first step of this process is going to be the what. And the what essentially means we're focusing on what we do as a business. What are those different deliverables and projects that you may do across your business? Whether if you are in client services, you might have different deliverables and projects that you do for your clients, but you also may have different things that you do to actually grow your business, as well as things for internal operations as well. So what you're going to want to do, and this is a big part of our framework here at ZenPilot, is we always want to start with a way to prioritize all of these different processes or workflows that we may have as a business. Because so you can think about, there's probably a lot of things that you do. Some of it may be more frequent than others. And so you want to be thinking about what are the ones that we need to document right now, because this does take time. This does take effort. We can't do it all at once. We can't go and systematize everything within a couple of weeks. So we need to think about, again, what are those things that are the most frequent? What are the things that we need to actually go ahead and document today because they are mission critical? So what you're going to do is a couple different things. And I have a worksheet here, example for you that we use here at ZenPilot that you're going to want to leverage for your team. If you want this exercise, I highly recommend it's the link will be in the top right of this video as well as in the description below. Go ahead and grab that. And as I walk through it, you can actually go ahead and fill this out as well. So whether you have one person doing this, whether you have 5, whether you have 10, it doesn't matter. Just get everyone in the room that you need in there. So maybe your leadership team to start thinking about, again, what are those things that we do for ourselves as well as for our clients that we need to make sure are documented, because if they're not, then it's going to be hard to scale our business. So in this worksheet, I have a bunch of different columns that we'll use to kind of take us through this process prioritization worksheet to help us, again, prioritize what should be built first. At some point, we may get all this documented, but we need to make sure that we're starting with the most important pieces. So again, the first thing is just going to be that brain dump. So we're going to list out all the deliverables and projects that we do across our team. So some examples here, again, I have this example worksheet: run weekly MPS enrollment, maintenance, a PPC roadmap, cross account audit, quarterly business review, keyword research, website redesign, all the way down here to EAT audit. So there's a bunch of different things that you may do. Again, get them all in here. You might not think of everything, but the more you can get in here, the better. And then from there, we're going to actually go and prioritize what needs to be built out first. So a couple of different things that we have here. One, process type. Is this more of a deliverable or project? This is important because in your project management system, which I'll get into after this, you may have sort of different templates for each of these. So deliverable is probably something that's smaller that you kind of do over and over and over again. And a project may be something that maybe you do once every so often. So good example of that for a marketing agency is a website redesign. So that's probably something you do once for a client as opposed to a blog post you might do a bunch of times for them. So think about a deliverable versus projects. Projects are things that are probably going to take a month, 2 months, 3 months. A bit larger deliverables are those sort of tools in the toolbox that you do over and over and over again. In addition, if you want, you can also choose work categories for these. So if you want to kind of come here and just be able to kind of sort and group them based off of the work category that they might fit into. So these could be things like your service lines or just different parts and departments within your business. You can use that to just categorize those to help kind of group them together if it's helpful in the future. But again, these ones are not necessarily required, but they are helpful to kind of just get that additional documentation there. After that, we're going to have the most important pieces here, which is frequency, documentation needs, and pain. So essentially what frequency means, and this is going to be on a scale of 1 to 5 in the way that we do it. Frequency is just how often do we do this. So a 5 is going to be something that we perform on a regular basis, versus a 1 is going to be something that maybe we just do it very minimally. It's just something that happens maybe once a quarter or something like that. So that's just kind of a way, put it on a 1 to 5 scale. It doesn't necessarily mean 1 has to mean this, 2 has to mean this, 3 has to mean this. Just think about, again, 1 to 5, 5 being sort of the most frequent, 1 being the least frequent. After that, we're going to have documentation needs. So think about, do we have this documented or not at all? So 5 is essentially going to mean this process is not documented at all, and it might be completely different every time. So that's probably going to be a higher need. We need to document this right now because there's really no documentation anywhere for this. Where 1 is, we actually have a pretty good standard operating procedure or process written out somewhere. Maybe it's not connected well, to the tasks that we're working on, but we at least have it. So that's kind of a great way to help prioritize there. And then lastly, painful. How painful is this? So a 5 is this process is a massive pain point. If we don't get it right, then a lot of things can slip through the cracks. So that's going to be the highest level of pain versus a 1. If it's not documented, it's not that big of a deal. So maybe it's something that's pretty easy, and the team knows how to do it pretty well. And if we don't get it documented right now, it's not that big of a deal. So through all that, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to get a score over here. And this score is going to represent sort of the most processes that we need to prioritize right now. We need to document it right now. So as you can see here, run weekly MPS enrollment maintenance, got a high frequency, high documentation needs, and a high pain score. So that's going to give us a 13 versus maybe something down here, not as necessary to document right away. In addition to that score, you'll also see a point person. So, also in addition to the what is the who. So, the who here is essentially who's going to be the person that's in charge of documenting and building out this workflow for your team. You want to make sure you have that point person there. And again, this doesn't necessarily have to be the internal expert. This is just someone who is in charge of that process in general, because they can sort of delegate and get some other people to help them build this out. But they are the person that is in charge of making sure that we get this part, this deliverable, this project documented for the rest of the team. In addition, in the spreadsheet, you also see needed for launch. Essentially, as I was saying, this is something that is going to be necessary. If you are going into a new project management system, which if you're systematizing your business, maybe this is the case. You're about to implement a new PM system. What are the things that you're doing right now for your clients or for your team that don't have a process documented? That's going to be needed for launch, because sometimes some of these things, again, are something that maybe we're thinking about doing in 6 months from now or a year. That's not necessarily needed to launch a new system. We can live without it. So that's also another way to prioritize. What are the things that you're doing right now for your clients or for your business? That's probably going to need to be documented first. Then in addition, if you want to link to any additional documentation that you might have, that is also helpful. But this is really the first exercise that you're going to take. Again, brain dump everything into this sheet. Take some time, meet with your whole team, to a leadership team or whoever needs to be in the room, and think about all those different things that you do as a business and make sure they're prioritized, because that's what's going to be what helps us sort of get to the next step in terms of us building this out. So after we've taken this step and we've actually prioritized all of our processes and our workflows and everything that we do, we need to actually start building these out. And so what I would recommend, and I'm going to do this inside of ClickUp. ClickUp is a project management system. If you've seen this channel, you'll know that we have a lot of ClickUp videos here. But if you're not using this, no big deal. There are great systems out there. Essentially, what you're going to want to have in your project management system is you need to have the ability to build out templates that can be used over and over and over again, because that's what you're going to be doing. Essentially, what I'm going to be doing with this is taking all of these different things that we do as a business, and I need to make sure I actually go and build out all of the workflows. And so what the final product will look like is essentially you'll have all of your sort of deliverables and projects all documented in your system with all the necessary items that you need to actually do this. So as you can see here, a podcast, and then I have all of the different steps to complete that podcast. In addition, I may also have a knowledge base here in my project management system or somewhere else that allows me to come and sort of see all of those processes or all those standard operating procedures. So you want to make sure that's in here too. We just need to make sure that these are connected to those tasks as well. So the big important piece of this now is, again, if you're the founder of a business, if you are, maybe you started an agency and it's going really well, but now you need to be able to actually delegate work to other people. Well, it's hard to delegate if you don't have all that information out of your head into a system and also have the tasks in there to actually assign someone. You can create random tasks for people, but again, that can be, you end up spending way more time working in your project management system instead of your project management system working for you. So you want to make sure that this becomes a very scalable, and you basically build your whole business into this PM system with templates and things like that. So to give you a good example, I want to walk through actually building one of these out. So let's say we are an agency and we're going to be doing a blog post, because this is a deliverable or something that we do all of the time. This is something that a lot of clients get, and this is sort of a big part of our agency. So again, this could be whatever. Think about that deliverable. Essentially, what the deliverable is going to become, if you're in ClickUp, the parent task. And so after that, the next step is to think about what are the different steps necessary to complete this blog post. Because oftentimes people will get into a system and all they have is one task called blog post. They have multiple assignees on it and they just kind of switch the due date via automation and things like that. That's not what you want to do. You want to think about all those individual steps necessary to complete that blog post so that it makes it way easier for our team to actually get assigned to those different tasks and actually know what they are in charge of. Because otherwise, no one knows what they're held accountable for in this process. This is not just something that's completed in one day and it's good to go. We have some review cycles. We also have the actual copy. We have the images that need to be created. We have the reviews with the client and things like that. We need to make sure all of that is in here so that we can delegate that work and make sure the team is aligned on what they're in charge of doing. So what you're going to want to do is after you, again, go ahead and prioritize all of these, you can actually take these and start building them out inside of ClickUp or whatever project management system you're using. And the way that I do in ClickUp here is if you watched our videos before, we like to build a nice process library where all of this is going to live. And so as you can see here, I have blog posts. This is just an example list here. And what I need to do now is start building in subtasks all the individual steps. So the first one, let's say, is actually building the blog strategy or documenting the blog strategy. So that might be the first step. Again, when you're building these out, think about sort of how you're going to pass this work from person to person. So someone might be in charge of designing or documented the blog strategy. They might have to take a couple hours on that. Then maybe the next person is writing the first version of the blog. So that might be step two. Now, maybe step two is review the first version of the blog. And then maybe the next step is take recommendations and make improvements to the blog. So whatever you want to do, just think about, get these out sort of out of your head, start thinking about the process, start thinking about sort of this workflow of how we're going to pass work back and forth. Again, the best advice I can give you here is think about all these different steps. Think about sort of who the assignee may be. So we're going to pass this work from one person to the next person to the next person. So we need to make sure all those steps are built out here inside of ClickUp. And because you'll probably ask, there is a way with AI to be able to do this a little bit easier just to save you some time. So what you can do is I actually have a prompt that I have built out in here that is super helpful. If you want this prompt, feel free to leave a comment in this video and I can send it your way. But as you can see here, what I do is just act as if you're a marketing professional and designing workflows and processes for your marketing agency. The first workflow you need to build is for writing a blog post for a customer. Can you please write out 20 different subtasks for a blog post process? They should only include the tasks needed and not descriptions. The first subtask should focus on the strategy, and the last subtask should focus on publishing the blog. And so I'm also going to say there's going to be multiple rounds of revision and then also have an example workflow of what this could look like. And what I can do inside of ClickUp, again, you can be in ClickUp AI, you can be in Claude, ChatGPT, whatever, take a prompt just like this. And the cool part about ClickUp is I can do it right here. I can go here to, let's say we're writing a description. I'm going to come here to write with AI. I can paste my prompt in there, and that's going to go ahead and start building out the subtasks for me. Again, this is probably not going to be perfect, but it's going to get you at least one step of the way there. So you could probably edit it and sort of make it fit for what you actually do as a business. As you can see now, I can insert that, and we have defined blog objectives and strategy, conduct topic research and selection, identify target audience and keywords. So some of this I might be able to merge together if it's going to be someone's going to be doing those sort of in one sitting. But some of these are great because, again, we have our rounds of revision in there. That's probably typical for most client service teams, especially agencies, that their clients will review it and they need to come back. So you want to make sure all of those steps are built out into these workflows for you to use. So what I'm able to do now, and again, this is if you're doing ClickUp, so I can actually take these, and let's get rid of what I was working on there. I can actually take these and say I'm going to add a new subtask. I can paste these in here and create 20 different tasks from that. So that's a great reason, and that's a feature I love in ClickUp, is it gives you the ability to build all those out pretty easily, just like that. As you'll see, that'll start loading in here, and now I have all of those 20 steps ready for me to go. And now I have my workflow built out for the most part. Again, you might have some of these steps that could be merged. So let's say it can on the same day complete this step, and this step. I do have the ability to just use the merge feature here inside of ClickUp. So if I wanted to come here and merge these tasks, I could merge them just into the defined blog post objectives and strategy, and just kind of merge these, maybe turn these into a checklist or whatever I wanted to do if I didn't need those as individual steps. But again, think about sort of how you're going to pass work back and forth across the team. The way that I do this is each of these tasks is going to be one user in one sitting. not to exceed 4 hours. A lot of that is going to help with things like workload in the future, as well as just we always want the due date to be the DO date when they're actually supposed to complete that. That's just a part of the ZenPilot methodology that helps you kind of pass work back and forth and provide more clarity for the team overall. But again, that's the first step, is getting this workflow built out for all of your deliverables. Again, that might be a blog post, but you're probably going to have a lot of different things in here, like podcasts. I have a case study in here as well. I have landing pages. You want to build out all of the different workflows for all of your different deliverables and projects and build them out as subtasks underneath that parent task. So the next step after that is actually going to be building in due dates and time estimates. And also, if you're in ClickUp, you'll use things like custom fields that'll help sort of with data and structure in the future for visibility and reporting purposes. So what I'm able to do, again, this is if you're in ClickUp, regardless of the system, most systems allow you to build due dates that then can be remapped in the future so that you can use this process over and over and over again. But what I'm going to do is if I am in ClickUp here, I can pull up the dependency map, and this is just an easy way to start picking out due dates for these tasks. But what I would want to do is just think about a date map. So for this one, I don't necessarily care about what the date actually is. I don't care that I'm putting this in the future because, again, I can remap this. I care about the distance between these different dates. So let's say for this one, define blog post objective, I can just choose that, schedule the task just like that, all the way down, and I can schedule out all of these, which we don't need that there. Put that one there. And we're just going to go ahead and oftentimes I like to put these a day apart just like that. Make sure I don't skip any of them. And I'm going to build out the whole workflow just like this. One thing I would recommend is if you do have something like sending to a client as one task, and then there's another task that's receiving that feedback from the client, I do typically like to put a couple of dates in between those because it does typically take the client longer than one day to get back to us with that review cycle. What we're going to do is you're just going to work through and schedule all these tasks just like that. Again, you'll be able to remap these in the future if you want and if you need. So we can just build out those typically, again, one day apart, unless it's something that multiple people can complete on one day. After you have the due dates in there, you can also, if you want, build in dependencies. This will be very helpful for me to actually kind of come in here and remap due dates or just know what's blocking what. So it's always helpful. Again, most PM systems out there allow you to add in dependencies just like this. So after you build the due dates, make sure you add in the dependencies there as well and get that built out as a whole sort of chain and workflow to link all of that together like that. So after that, in addition, we have due dates, we have dependencies. We're also going to need time estimates in here as well. Time estimates are super helpful because what this is going to do is it's going to tell our team how long something should take, as well as just populate our workload view as well. So if you're trying to be able to see workload capacity, visibility, you need to make sure that you have time estimates on all of your tasks. Because what this is going to do is if I have a due date on there, if I have a time estimate and an assignee, that's going to allow me to see how much time is on each person's plate within my team. So that's another thing you want to do. Just go ahead and add in all of your time estimates. Just think about how long that task may take. So this one might take 2 hours. This one might take 1 hour, so on and so forth. Go through all of your different tasks and add those in as well. Again, think about these as one user. So one person's assigned to each of these. It's going to be due on that day. So we want them to be able to do it in one sitting. So typically they can sit down, get the task done, and then close it and then pass the work to the next person. So we like to keep that time estimate less than about 4 hours, again, just to help kind of get everything onto that one day to make it a little bit more granular than most businesses will make their tasks. And then after that, we're also going to put on the deliver role. So this is just a custom field I have in here because what I want to do is I want to build sort of these workflows in here to scale. In order to do that, what I need to do is I don't want to assign this to someone. I don't want to assign someone to this specific task because they might not always be the person that does that. You might right now in your business today, if you're just a little bit smaller, someone might always be in charge of the blog post objectives and strategy or conducting research, but oftentimes they might not be that in the future. Or sometimes for different clients, they may do that. So you don't always have the same copywriter. They don't have the same strategist on every single client. So you don't want to go and build in assignees to any of these tasks. What you want to do is you can actually build in a deliver role, which in ClickUp, this is a drop-down custom field, and there's other ways to do it in other systems. But with this, what I'm able to do is I can kind of come here and again, this is a drop down that I have all of my different deliver roles in here. So this could be just think about not necessarily the job titles on your team, but you want to think about sort of what are the different roles that we have within our organization. So again, someone might take up multiple roles. Someone might be a proofer one time and then also a copywriter another time. They might be a strategist, and then also an account manager. So think about just those different roles that you have on these tasks that you can build out in here. So let's say define blog post objectives and strategy. That might be the strategist. Conduct topic research and selection. That's probably the strategist too. This might be the strategist as well. So this is kind of where you start to see maybe some of these can be merged into one, and I can build a checklist into this as well. But maybe they outline the blog post structure. Maybe that one's the copywriter. So we're going to assign that person to this task, and then this might also be the copywriter as well. And then again, select or create accompanying graphics. That might be our designer. And if we had any proofing, perform an internal review of the draft, that's going to be the proofer. So as you can see, we're just going to label these one by one. What role is going to be in charge of this task, which this role will in the future turn into the assignee. Because again, these are going to be templates that we build that we can use over and over and over again. So that's really the first step. After all this, get your workflows built out. Again, the task, the subtasks, you want to have the due dates in there and the dependencies. You want to have the time estimates, deliverable. And if there's any other custom fields or other things you want to add to this, you can do that as well. So again, that's the workflow. The next part of this is now we need to actually start building the process for how you do each of these different steps. And this is going to be probably even more important to this. You can live with just having these tasks if you're a smaller team, but as you go and as you grow and you bring on new people, really to delegate a lot of this work, especially if you're the owner or founder of a business and you kind of have all that IP in your head, all that sort of what made you the business, what sort of your creative processes may be. You need to make sure all that information gets out of your head into the system. So, what you are able to do is you want to build out SOPs or processes either in Google Docs. They can be in a tool like ClickUp. They can be in a tool like Guru. Wherever it lives, it doesn't matter necessarily where it lives. It just matters how they're going to then be connected to these tasks. Because the big sort of learning point in this is that the process needs to live where the work gets done. If you can imagine you have a bunch of standard operating procedures or different processes that you have documented, but if they live in Google Drive and they're not connected to these actual tasks, no one may know that they exist, or no one is actually going to go check for them because they can't find them. They need to be right in front of people when they actually get this work in front of them. So what you are able to do, if I want to, and ClickUp, I can come here and I showed you this a little bit earlier, is build out a knowledge base. And so the big important step that I'll give you here is when you actually go do something, record yourself doing it. So I like to use a tool called Loom, which allows me to just record my screen. I can talk through it. And so essentially, if I'm trying to build sort of a resource for a new person coming onto our team, and I'm going to go do, and I'm going to go write a blog post, or I'm going to kind of design the strategy, I can record myself doing that so that the next person, I can use that as a resource for the next person to watch and sort of train them on it. So again, as the owner of a business, if you're an agency or whatever business you are, if you're the reason that like it's your creativity, you're the one that sort of started all of this. And as you've grown, you brought on more clients, you need to delegate this work. Make sure you go ahead and just record yourself doing all the things that you do so that the rest of the team can replicate your process. So what you can do then is you can also embed those all in here. So I can, if I had a Loom video, I can put it in here with this different step and make sure the whole with email templates and everything is just documented in here. Again, that's the SOP part of it, but the most important step of this is going to be connecting that to your actual tasks of what people are working on. So the cool part about ClickUp, and again, this can be any system, is I can take this and I can actually copy the link and I can go back down to that process, that workflow that I was just working on, and say if I have a step sort of defined for that, I can go ahead and link this directly here. So again, this is going to be linked directly to the SOP. So whenever someone actually gets assigned to this defined blog post objectives and strategy, they will see the resource on how to do that right in front of them. So this is essentially the what, this is what you're supposed to do, and then this is the how you're supposed to do it. In addition, another cool part about ClickUp or other tools that have checklists within the subtasks is that I can also put things in here to say, don't forget to do this, this, or that when you actually go and complete this step. So we can have the how, the what, and then also the reminders for seasoned users to don't forget to do this, this, or that, just to make sure that all the necessary steps get complete when someone actually goes and completes this task. So again, those are the main steps. If you want to be able to speed up a little of the process with your SOPs, you can use AI. Again, to give you an example of what I did is typically, again, I'm going to record a Loom video just like this, as you can see here. We'll open up this link. So how to upload an event to our alumni community. If you use Loom, you'll see they have the transcript right here as well. So if maybe this loom is 30 minutes long or 40 minutes long and no one really wants to watch that, I am able to take that transcript like this and I can copy that either into ClickUp AI, or I can use a tool like Claude or ChatGPT, paste that transcript in here. As you can see, it's listed out right here. I've included a transcript that you can use to write out these instructions, and just have a nice prompt like, act as if you're an operations specialist in designing workflows and process for your marketing agency. Please create a step-by-step instructions on how to best execute and complete this tasks, upload event to alumni community, so on and so forth. You have that prompt, and you can go ahead and build out something like this where it's going to have sort of that SOP guide for you based off of that transcript. So now you have the steps on how to do it. So if someone would rather read it, they can use that. Or if they want to watch a video on how to do it, they can do that as well. In addition, you can use a tool like Scribe or Tango. Those are great tools to be able to document your processes that way as well. But again, the most important step is just make sure that the process live where the work gets done. So build out your workflows here, just like this, with all the necessary steps on how to actually complete this blog post. Make sure you have the due dates in there, time estimates, custom fields like a deliver role, all the dependencies. And then in addition, make sure that you have links to your instructions or the how to in these tasks as well. And so the cool part about this now is after I complete this whole workflow like this and I have all of the data that I need in it, I'm able to save this. And this is most systems. I'm able to save this as a template just like this. So I can come here and I can actually save this as a template. That's going to bring all the data and everything I need there inside of this deliverable. And now I have that as a repeatable process template that I can use over and over and over again. So now I've gotten all the information out of my head. And now when a blog post comes in, we're writing one for a client, I can deploy this template that I just made. And again, I have the instructions in there. I have the due dates, the time estimates, all the different data points that I need, and I can easily delegate out work. So it's going to make our business way more scalable because now we don't have to build all this from scratch. It's already there. And it's going to make it way easier for our team to know what they're in charge of, what they need to do, and how they need to do it as well. So after that's done, as you can see, if I come here to where my actual work is living, again, this is sort of where all my templates are living in this process library. I can come in, and this is a delivery space where all of my active client work is living. Again, you might have a different system or different hierarchy structure here. But again, this is the most important step, is getting these built out. Now, let's say for Shroot Farms, I needed to write a blog post for them. I could easily come here to my templates, browse my templates. We'll search for blog post here. Just like this, we found it right there. Use the template. I can name that blog post to whatever it may be. Let's just say Shroot Farms blog post. Can't spell here. Just like that. And again, as I said, you can remap the date. So if you have that date workflow built out, you can do this as well. Let's say this one's going to be due out May 10th, just like that. And I can go ahead and use this template. And so now what you'll see is that's going to take all the data that is put into that workflow. I already had an example in there. Obviously didn't save the one that wasn't completed, but as you'll see here, that has the due dates, that has the time estimates, all of the steps, any checklist items, any sort of documentation I put in there as well. It's all built into this template. And now I'm able to go assign this out. I can actually use the deliver role. This is another video we have on actually using that deliver role to assign out the tasks. I can build out something like an assignee view. I'll link a video for this overall process in the description below, as well as in the top right, so you can watch that. But as you can see, I can kind of group all these strategist tasks together using that custom field and assign it to whoever that strategist may be for Shroot Farms. So that's going to give me a good sort of repeatable structure for me to do these blog posts or whatever process that may be over and over and over again. And remember, now if someone has that work assigned to them, they can easily see their tasks inside of their project management system just like this. I can see all of my work. And if there's any sort of process on how to do it or any checklist, all of that is going to live right here in the description. Link out to your standard operating procedure, your process. Make sure the process lives where the work gets done to make it easy for them to know what they need to do, how they need to do it, and reminders for them to don't forget to do this and that. So that's going to be huge for your team. That's going to be huge to help scale your business. So that's a big recommendation I would make is make sure you build those as processes inside of your project management system, save them as templates so you can use them over and over and over again. So now another recommendation I would make to you, again, we build out those deliverables and those projects, but those might be more of the puzzle pieces that your team does. So they might be more of the individual things, but you might need to zoom it out at the high level. In order to do that, I'd recommend using a tool like Miro, where you can kind of come in and say you have a large process in terms of maybe it's the sales to delivery process or sort of the overarching, like again, those are the puzzle pieces, those are the individual deliverables and projects that you may do, but what's the overall workflow of how you do things? So in order to do that, you can use a tool again like Miro that allows you sort of map all of that out. So maybe when a contract is won, what's the next step? So we need to think about sort of onboarding for this. So maybe at a high level, we just need to map all of this together in a tool just like this, where we can kind of think about, again, what are those high level steps? Where do then those smaller deliverables like I just built, like that blog post, fit in? Again, it might not just be blog posts. There's a bunch of other things that you can have in there. But how does that all link together? And how can we also use automations as well to build that out? So as you can see here, I just have a generic process of our how we do things at ZenPilot, where it's from sales to the kickoff to all the different calls that we do, and kind of goes through our whole kind of client delivery project. So that might look something like this, where it's all documented out for your team to be able to see that. And sort of, again, this is sort of the zoomed out view. This is kind of building that puzzle with all those puzzle pieces that you just built inside of your project management system as templates. So you want to make sure this is built out as well. Take some time with your team and sort of map this out so you can kind of determine, hey, what are some things that we can automate to kind of send maybe data from one place to another? What are those bigger, larger steps that we're going to need? And then how can we use those templates that we just built to kind of make all this process a bit easier? So there's a lot that you can do here. Again, this is an important step, but probably the most important is going to be taking and building out all those workflows and processes inside of your project management system and saving them as templates. So now the next step after all of this, though, is going to be actually optimizing it and sort of making it better and giving your team a way to provide feedback so that you can kind of come in here and update those templates over time. Because obviously, right now, you have all of them built out, but those might be updated. There's maybe some changes that come in, or someone says, hey, this is not quite how we do things, or maybe I have a better way of doing things, especially as AI comes in the picture. Maybe that's embedded a little bit more into some of your processes. So you want to make sure you have a good way to be able to optimize and be able to update your workflows and your templates as well. So what I would recommend, a couple different things, is one, having something like a process hub just like this. And this is something that we can build inside of ClickUp, but this is also something that you could probably just build into a spreadsheet just like this. And sort of all this you can build into spreadsheets, but at some point I would move it over to your project management system. But a couple important things that could be just built as columns, again, in something like a spreadsheet like this, but we like to build it in ClickUp, is right here. Essentially, this is just sort of not all of my processes and workflows. This is just sort of the catalog for all of that. So I can kind of see at a high level what all we have built out inside of our PM system here. So as you can see here, I have all those listed out, like sales audit, new hire setup, SEO monthly optimization, HubSpot implementation. And what I'm doing is I'm using the assignee to be sort of, again, who is in charge of this process, as I mentioned, sort of this point person right here. So who's in charge of building that out? Again, they can gather multiple team members to help them build that out, but who's sort of the higher person that's in charge of making sure that this is constructed and up to date. So you have the assignee there. Again, this is the overall deliverable or project. We then have something like a process status here where we can say, hey, this is in the backlog. Essentially, this is not a high priority item. This is something we should build in the future, but we don't need to right now. Then you can also use this process status to say, hey, this is ready to develop, in progress, under review, update needed, approved, or live. So you want to make sure you also have that update needed, because I'll show you how you use that in just a moment. But make sure you have a good sort of workflow to know sort of all the different deliverables and projects that you have documented as a processes, as those workflows here inside of your project management system. And again, in this example, I'm using ClickUp here. But again, make sure you have something built like this. So it's, again, sort of that catalog for everything that you do as a business, and sort of the status of what it is for your team to use. And in addition, this will be someone like a project manager or your champion of your system that's going to be sort of in charge of this list here. But you'll also have something like a list with a form on it. Again, this can be inside of ClickUp. This can be a Google form, whatever you need. Basically, what you want to make sure that you have is a form here for the team to fill out to give feedback to your processes. Because remember, these are not going to be stagnant. You're going to optimize these over time, and you want to make sure your team can give their and voice their opinion on what they think of this overall process. So as they're working out of one of those templates, maybe they recognize there's a change that needs to be made, or maybe sort of the SOP, the documentation is not quite right, and they want to update it. So make sure you have a form just like this. They can name the request, any details about the request, what's the issue type, is this a new process, something needs to be improved, or just a wrong process in general. They can submit their ticket with their name there, And then if they want to give a screenshot to that process or provide a Loom video or whatever it may be, they can do that as well. But again, you just want to have a process for improving processes. You want to have a way for your team to submit feedback because you want to get buy-in from the team in terms of what you're putting out in front of them because they are the ones using those tasks now that you've created. You want to make sure they have a good way to provide their feedback. So this is easy in ClickUp because you can create a form right here, and that's going to create tasks here directly inside of this list to say, hey, we need to work on this process. We need to update it. And now we can go back into our process library because we have all those source files in there and update all of those. So that's going to be important. In addition, you can have recurring tasks for someone to come in and actually update the SOPs because a big problem that a lot of teams can have is they build out all these amazing SOP documents inside of your knowledge base, but they don't have a good sort of process for reviewing those, updating them, and making changes if necessary. So I highly recommend sort of in maybe a process development list here inside of ClickUp, you have a way to update those and you have those tasks assigned. Maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's biannual, maybe it's weekly, depending on how often you need to update those and make sure that work gets assigned out and in the system so that we don't forget to actually go and update those. In addition, one thing I'd recommend with your SOP documents is that you do have a way to sort of version these as well. I mean, I'm going to use emojis here to say if this is good to go as green, yellow, it's in progress, or red, don't use this. So you can kind of have a system just like that, but make sure you have updates and sort of when changes were made, just in case your system doesn't have sort of the historical information that's saved versions beforehand as well. So those are the steps that you want to take, again, to systematize your business. As we talked about it, just to review, we went through the first thing is going to be actually prioritizing and kind of going through the what of what these sort of deliverables and projects we do as a business. Make sure that's all out of your head and then kind of take that through a way to prioritize those based off the frequency, documentation needs, and pain. Make sure you have a point person on there for who is actually in charge of documenting that process. Then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to go build out something like a process library and actually get a lot of these documented in here with all of the different steps. So podcast episodes, case studies, just make sure we have all the subtasks that'll be actually assigned out to people. Again, these are the steps necessary to complete this case study. So this is going to be what's assigned out. This is my workflow. I then have due dates. I have time estimates. I have custom fields in here, and I have dependencies. And then within that, I also have links to standard operating procedures or the process of how to do it. So in all of these tasks, you should have links to that documentation after you build it. And then you can save these as templates and use them over and over and over again. And then with that, also have a way to optimize these, change them. That's why it's helpful to have the source files here for you to update those and make adjustments as necessary so that the team is bought into using these and that you always have updated versions so that the process is right and you're providing amazing value to your team and your clients. And that's how you systematize your entire business. So if you learned a little something or you just like this video, please go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. We're going to continue to deliver weekly content for the teams that are trying to systematize their business, streamline their operations, and get more out of ClickUp. And also, if you have any questions, comments, or just feedback in general, go leave those in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And remember, if you want to hit the easy button and have my team help you streamline your operations to build a more productive, profitable, and healthy business, go to ZenPilot.com/call and book a call with one of our experts. We've helped over 3,000 teams through this process, and we'd love to do the same for you. And with that, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time.
Can I make no more? I can't replace it. Trying hard just not to waste it. It's about time. Yeah, it's about time.